So he said I went to Texas State University, but he didn't say why. I didn't go to Texas State University to pursue any kind of degree at the time. I went to Texas State University for love. I was supposed to, like Phil, I was supposed to go to Southern Methodist University. I was going to go do theater there, but this enchanting woman named Jennifer Lindsay Reynolds caught my eye, and down I went down to San Marcos. But I slowly realized that this was not my decision. This was not the place that I wanted to be. My friends were not here, and I didn't have a vision for my future in this place, and so I started to get a little disgruntled. I didn't know what I wanted my major to be, and things weren't looking too hot for me. Also, because I was having to take all of these basics classes like composition and biology 1 and algebra 1, and it didn't even feel like it was going anywhere. They were in the stadium seating 400 people classes and not very engaging if you ask me. In my biology class, it was a 400-person stadium seating class where the professor's up on stage like this with a mic. They've got like 3 teaching assistants, and it's lecture, quiz, lecture, test, lecture, quiz, lecture, test, and just regurgitation of information. Pretty frustrating place to be in for someone who's really not happy with their life state anyway. Then one day, this professor gets up on the stage after a few weeks into the class to let us know that attendance has started to drop off because there's too many people to keep attendance, and the grades have started to suffer because no one's paying attention, and he's really frustrated. So he says something along the lines of, your generation, this, that, or the other, and you're just here for 4 years more on your parents' credit card. If you really want to do something and you don't want to be here, give your parents a break, give them their money back, and go find something else to do. Well, this frustrated me for 2 reasons. One, I'm a millennial, and I don't like when people say things not positive about me. 2, I was, in fact, taking out loans to pay for my college, and I'm sure many of my comrades were contributing to the over $1 trillion worth of student debt so that we could get a college degree and go on and be cogs and all of this stuff. So I figured, you know what? I have some things that I want to say to this professor. And so I stand up and I walk down the aisle after class of this auditorium through the seats right up to the stage where he is, and I make a sharp right and go out the door and go to my dorm room and open up my laptop and create a fake email address and decide I'm going to tell him what I think. So I got this fake email address, and under that cover, I send him something along the lines of, I'm paying for my own college, I'm taking out debt, I don't appreciate it, you don't know me, you can't talk to me like that. And then I thought, and I should use some science words. So I said, and if you say anything like that again, I'm going to rock you to a subatomic level so hard that your nucleuses are going to shiver. Still don't know the plural way to say nucleuses, nuclei, but I thought that it was a pretty powerful email. And then I went on with my life like this was a normal thing to do. A couple weeks later, he made another disparaging comment about me and my people. And so I thought, well, I'm going to tell him something else. So we need to have another conversation. So off we go. And this happened 3 or 4 more times throughout the course of the semester that I get frustrated. I go back to my dorm. I write him this hate mail, and I move on with my day. It got to the point where we were getting really specific, and I was like, sir, I just want you to know that what you said today made me so frustrated that I hope tomorrow, whenever you eat breakfast, something is wrong with your mitochondria. So whenever you try to get nutrients from the food that you've ingested, no energy will go to you at a cellular level. And then I wrote one where I found out his address. And so I emailed him. I included his address, and I said, I'm sick of this semester. One more word about me and my generation, I'm going to show up on your front door and I'm going to kick your deoxyribonucleic acid. Probably a step too far. So, meanwhile, what I don't know is that he is forwarding these emails to the Dean of Students' office, student justice, all of these things. And though I thought that I was untraceable, the university was my internet service provider. So with a quick search, they can figure out the dorm room that it's coming from, and my roommate Kyle ratted me out. So here I am left holding the bag. And they're sending letters to me. They're sending letters to my campus mailbox, but because I was so disparaged and frustrated, I didn't pay attention in orientation when they told us how to get in our campus mailboxes. So these letters are piling up, and they think that I'm ignoring them. They think that maybe this is getting hostile. They're trying to tell me to cease and desist, and I'm not doing anything about it. So I go to Thanksgiving break. It's a good time to be home, get back in his class, 8 a.m. on Monday morning. I'm asleep in my chair. No wonder he didn't like us. I'm asleep in my chair, and I hear him say, yeah, right there, D4, seat D4. And I open my eyes, and there's two cops who march on down the aisle and come and get me underneath my armpits and walk me out of class in front of 400 of my people. Walk outside, and the dean of students is standing there, and it's raining, and he's got this black umbrella and a black trench coat, and he says, let's go to my office. So we go to his office. He sit down, and he says, have you ever heard of the term domestic terrorism? I said, no. He said, this is kind of what this is. He said, and that may be me exaggerating, but this professor's definitely asked for a restraining order. He's also asked that you be expelled from the class. He's also asked that we move to completely expel you from the university. You're going to get no refund from this class. You're going to have to do 100 hours community service. You're going to go on academic probation. You're going to go on behavioral probation, which means you can't apply for scholarships, you can't do work study, and you can't be a part of most student organizations. We're going to meet next week with this professor to seal it all up. I kind of in a daze the next week and show up to the dean of students' office the following week and sit down with this professor. Actually, I get there first, and he comes in. I'm sitting on this couch. He comes in. He's a tall guy, about 6'3", and he's wearing one of those Indiana Jones hats and khaki everything. He's like a biology guy with cargo pants pockets on everything, and like multi-tools and like binoculars. And he comes into me, and he extends his hand, and he says, "We meet." He thought about that, and I kind of look back at him, I go, we do. We do. And we sit in silence. And then to the left of me is this globe. Nervously, I start focusing my attention on the globe instead of this towering professor next to me, and I end up settling on Africa because I had just been on a trip there with my dad, and I'm looking at the Congo. And he looks over my shoulder, and to make conversation, he asked me, "What are you looking at?" I said, "I'm checking out Congo." And he said, "Why are you looking at Congo?" And I stop, and I'm pretty sure a ray of sunshine comes through the window, and I think to myself, I'm about to be able to tell this man that my father is a minister of the Lord Jesus Christ. So I tell him that, I'm a pastor's kid, and I went on this mission trip, and then just silence left from him. The dean comes and calls us in. We sit down, and everything that they said came to pass, restraining order. The student ombudsman was there, community service hours, expelled from the class, no refund, all this stuff. I pass it. The student ombudsman makes sure that I understand what my sentence is, et cetera. I sign it, pass it around to the dean of students as a witness. Then they pass it to the professor. And he takes that piece of paper with all of these things that I'm going to now have to do and all these penalties against me. He looks at it for a while, and he takes off his glasses, and he takes a deep breath. He says, "How about this? How about you and I get breakfast every Wednesday for the rest of this year, and we call it even?" So Dr. Huffman and I got breakfast together every Wednesday for the rest of that year, and then every Wednesday into my sophomore year, and every Wednesday into my junior and senior year, and he stood right next to my mom and my dad when I get sworn in as student body president of 28,000 people in my senior year of college. He changed my life completely. I can probably honestly tell you, I would not be here if my life trajectory would have continued believing that the world was attacking me, that I was a victim, that I didn't have ownership over the way that I interpreted the things other people did to me. But I bet you, considering that he was dealing with a little pissant like me, that he had some barriers to overcome in order to choose to be a difference in my life. And as I was thinking about what to talk about today, I thought, you know what? It's really important when we talk about being the difference and we talk about the stories of the people who did it for us and we talk about the people that we want to affect. The long-term vision's nice. Looking that far out is really helpful. But I think it's also important for us to stop for a moment, engage in a period of self-awareness and realize that things aren't going to go as planned. There are going to be challenges, and I think we're smart if we can name them. If we can know ourselves well enough to say, this is normally where it stops for me. This is normally where I get discouraged. This is normally where I quit. If we can call that out ahead of time, we're going to be a lot further along the path of being able to be the difference that we want to be for other people. I like storytelling. That's a lot of the work that I try to do in my business. And when they talk about good stories, they say that there's no good story that exists without conflict. A character has to endure difficult things and come out on the other side. Those are the stories we like to see. Characters have to go through challenges. And there's three that generally are involved in good movies and good stories. There's the external conflict, me against the world, the environment, a war, the gang on my street. There's the internal conflict. Do I have enough? Am I capable? Can I do it? Do I have what it takes? And then there's the philosophical conflicts, which are larger conflicts of two different ideas. So, good versus evil, justice versus injustice, slavery versus freedom, right versus wrong. I thought maybe that's a good way that we can think about the barriers too, because if we just get this instructive, okay, think about barriers in your life, maybe that's a little difficult, but what if we focus in a little bit more closely? So think about it this way. Maybe if you want to write this down for your reflection time later, let's think about it from the perspective of external barriers that we have whenever we think about making a difference in someone's life. So we've got these names up here on the wall. What are some external barriers that we might run into? Time. Well, they don't work at my office anymore. They moved to another city. My kids don't get along with their kids. External barriers, things outside of you that might get in the way of you being able to play the role of a difference in someone's life. Then we got internal barriers. This is uncomfortable to me. What do I have to offer? This is a big one when we think about playing a role of a mentor. But what do I have to offer? But I'm young, but I'm old, but I haven't had the life experience they have. What could I possibly? Am I enough? I've been wounded in the past when I've tried to pour into someone and they didn't accept it. These internal tension that we feel. And then there's the philosophical barriers. What if we're completely different? What if we're at opposing sides? What if we voted for different people? What if they're one generation, I'm a different generation? What if the complete makeup of our reality is in conflict with one another? A philosophical barrier that might exist. You'll have time to do that later, but I think that's a good framework. Oh, one note on the external barriers. If next to external you want to write parentheses, excuses, you can. Because if we think about I don't have enough time, we don't live in the same city, my kids don't get along, that's excuses. Let's move on from that. Write them down, name them, but let's realize those are hurdles we can jump. I like ending up with this philosophical barrier of two different things where one or the other, and it makes me think about this trap that I find myself in often whenever I think about engaging with other people. And it's this desire for certainty. It's this desire to know that if I'm going to try something, that it's going to work out. It's this dualistic thinking of either it works or it doesn't, either it's right or it's wrong, either it's a fit or it's not a fit. And I get to thinking that it can't be that way. Our youngest brother, Gavin, he's not here today. We had a philosophical conflict over Christmas break that I was rearing up and ready to go to talk to him about. And I remember on Christmas morning, my dad sat me down while we were waiting for everybody to wake up to come open presents. And he said, in this situation, you kind of choose. You can choose to be right, because you kind of are, or you can choose to have a relationship. Which would you rather? So when we get down to thinking about this or that or the other, what if there's no way to measure it at all? So whenever we think about making a difference in someone's life and addressing the barriers that get in our way, what if instead of thinking about, is this the right person? What if instead of certainty, we just chose to make a difference? What if that was the value? Certainty is not guaranteed, but building a relationship that can work. And you never know what ends up touching somebody. I called Dr. Huffman on the way here to tell him what I'm going to talk about, ask him about some advice. I said, here's the things I'm going to talk to. What should I convey? He said, Reagan, all those barriers are good. Mine, the one that still stays with me, it's impatience. Because I choose people. I mentor them. I want to make a difference in their life, but I want to see the fruits. But I want to recognize that the things that I've done have come to create a better future for all of us. And I realize that that's not guaranteed. And whenever I remember, I see impatience as this consistent barrier. It's not just one that I get over. And when I think about barriers, he said, none of them really ever go away. None of them really ever go away. In fact, many of them last us our entire lives. But, my friend, he said, relationships last us our entire lives also. Thank you.